Hello and welcome to my channel, and today we are filming my November TBR. So for November we have a little bit of a theme going on. This is normally the time of year where I like to read a lot of my nonfictions, my classics, mostly historical fiction. Not this year, because currently I think I have 22 books on my currently reading shelf, and the goal is to get that down as much as possible. If you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, I track my reads using Goodreads, and if I start a book, doesn't matter if I start just one page of it or if I actually complete the whole thing in a day, does not matter. I put every single book that I start onto my currently reading shelf, and then if I don't finish it, I leave it there until I finish it, unless I DNF it. So I'm going to be trying to get as many of those on this TBR as possible. I will still be pulling out from my prompts and trying to make it work, and hopefully it does. Before I get into that, I do want to tell you that I am switching up my wrap-up bingo board a little bit. I was going to wait until the start of 2025 to completely redo the board, but at this point I'm just not happy with my goals anymore. There are so many goals that I'm not completing, so I just went and refinalized some prompts. So the ones that I am replacing are loved one pick. I just don't take as many book recommendations from my loved ones as I want to, usually because my loved ones are getting the recommendations from me. Also, I got rid of cook. I feel like I'm cooking a lot more than I have been, so that space doesn't really need to be there. Upload, it's something I should be doing anyway, and you guys know when I upload, so it doesn't really need to be a square on the board. Readathon, when I added this square, it was because I was participating in a readathon every single month. Lately, I haven't been going out of my way to find readathons. I've just kind of been wanting to read on my own time. And while I do still love the odd readathons, there are certain readathons that I will participate in every single time no matter what. And I will be still be participating in those. I just don't need to make it a goal that I do it every single month. I got rid of the unhaul square. I typically unhaul something every single month anyway, but I shouldn't force myself to just for a square. And then I got rid of the Bookymon square because as much as I was really loving that kind of, I guess it's kind of a readathon, as much as I was really enjoying that reading challenge, I've kind of fallen off of it a little bit, and I know they are doing a 2025 version, so I think I just might pick up, I'm very behind, so I think I just might pick up at the beginning of 2025 and restart, and hopefully I'll stick with it throughout the year. Now, for the new things that I'm going to be working on, I have added a square for my Goodreads TBR, so a book that's not necessarily on my shelf, but is still on my want to read on Goodreads, because I have 796 books on my want to read, and some of them I own, most of them I do not. So I would like to start working on that, whether that means that I buy the books or I get them from my library. Just a book that is on my Goodreads shelf that I don't already own. A book from the library. I had this square on my bingo board last year, but got rid of it because I'm getting most of the manga that I'm reading this year from the library, but I'm still getting like novels from the library as well, and I feel like I'm not prioritizing them. So really I just check them out, and then they sit on my shelf or sit on my TBR cart for 3 weeks that they're checked out, or longer if I renew them, and they just don't get read. I did add a non-reading square, and that is anime. I really want to get more into anime. I have a really hard time prioritizing fun activities that aren't reading. I think I feel a little guilty when I'm doing something that's not reading. in my free time, and I need to let go of that a little bit, because as much as I do love to read and I want to read and accomplish all of these reading goals, I need to let myself step back too. Author backlist. I feel like every time a prompt comes up where it's like a new to you author, I have no problem with that, because almost every book on my shelf is by like a different author, like except in the case of series, and I want to branch out on that a little bit. I want to discover auto by authors more and enjoy works written by authors that I've loved in the past, and see if I love them just outside of the series that I love. And anthologies. I am not a super big short story collection reader, but I really want to be. I love the idea of anthologies, but I have yet to find one that I really enjoy and stick with, so that I'm adding that square onto my bingo board. And lastly, this is the one that I'm most excited about. I have a very visual brain. Typically, like when I'm learning something, I need to be shown how to do it rather than told how to do it. And that kind of affects my read. I used to have all of my unread books kind of turned around like this, so that when I did finish them, I'd put them on the right way like this, so I could tell exactly which book I had read and which I hadn't. I've since stopped that because I got too many questions about it, and yeah. But I'm a very visual person, and there's something very satisfying to me about looking at a shelf and saying, I have read every single one of those books. So this square is, I'm just putting down like next on shelf. That just means the very next book on my shelf. So what I would like to do is mainly focus on my main shelf that you typically see in my vlogs, and like pick a shelf from there. But I think to keep it fair, I'll probably end up doing a random number generator, 1 through 5, and because I have like 5 shelves altogether, I have my nonfiction shelf, my nonfiction / classic shelf, I've got my manga shelf, I have my middle grade shelf, my main shelf, and then my closet. I could add my TBR cart, but mainly that's just gonna hold my current TBR anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. I think I'll also probably talk about this a little in my wrap up, probably not in as much detail, but I just wanted to let you know that those are some changes that I will be working towards in terms of creating my TBR. I also felt like I had a lot of non-reading prompts, and while it's good to include some non-reading prompts onto a bingo board to help space it out and make you feel like you don't have to read as much, I kind of feel like those parts are super boring, or like I get worried that those parts are really boring and you guys don't actually care about hearing what I'm doing in my free time. I'm still keeping some of the non-bookish prompts, the non-reading prompts on there, and I'll still talk about them unless you guys really don't want me to. If you just want me to cross it off the bingo board and just talk about the books in my wrap-ups, please let me know. I think that's all the housekeeping. Let's jump into it right now. I have 22 books on my currently reading. There are still, I'm filming this a little early, it is the 23rd, so there are still a few days, there's still like a week left in October. Yeah, there's still a week and a day left in October for me to finish some of the books that I'm currently reading, but I've still got time. I've still got a lot of options to choose from. I'm hoping to get as many of the books that are on my currently reading onto this TBR as possible. We'll see how it goes. Let's start with pick number 1. A classic. I do have. Oh, you know what? I need to amend my statement. It's not necessarily just books that are on my currently reading, because there are a couple of books on my self-destruct list that I still have not gotten to, the books that were wrapped up that were on this TBR cart. So it's pretty much any book that is on the TBR cart right now. I'm trying to empty that as much as possible. That's what I was gonna say. So I do have 2 options for this, because there are 2 classics. This one is Wuthering Heights that I started in January or February of this year, and put it down like I knew was going to happen because it's a classic and I can never ever stick with classic. I think I tried, like I started reading it physically. I think I tried picking up the audiobook, couldn't get into it either way. I do want to give it a fair shot again. Me with classics, if I'm not reading like a specific version or the right version of it, I feel like I cannot concentrate. So this is an option. I also have Monkey. This is Benson's book, so technically this is on my self-destruct list. But if it's like Benson's book and it's one that Benson's obviously going to read at some point, I just put it on here to be like, oh, I might not actually get rid of the physical book, but I have to deal with the fact that I'm not actually going to read it. So these are the options. I think I'm going to go with Wuthering Heights. I just know this is a gothic classic by Emily Bronte. I know nothing else. I know this is set in like the winter, late fall-y vibes. And yeah, that's pretty much all I know about it, even with having started it in the past already. Pick number 2, a middle grade. I don't think I have any middle grades on my currently reading. Okay, hold on. I think it's under a bunch of things. It is in a stack of books that's sitting on my record player right now. But Benson and I started Eloise, the Ultimate Edition, during August. Yeah, in August, I think. So it's still on my currently reading. We only have 2 stories left in it. I think we'll pick that one. And then Benson will have to deal with reading Eloise at Christmas time with me. Pick number 3. You know what? There's one out of a ball that I'm just gonna pick because it's not in a ball. Mood read. What am I in the mood for? Typically, I wouldn't. A lot of people, when they pick mood read, they don't pick a book in the TBR video, but I like to. My question to myself right now is, do I want to be mean to myself or not? So for this one, I don't know what it is about reading books like this that make me want to read them in November, but I have been dying to pick up The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue in November, very specifically. And it is on my self-destruct books of the year. So I do need to read it by the end of the year anyway. But I also really want to read The Lord of the Rings in November. Something about thick fantasies in November just call my name. I'd be breaking the rules if I put both on for this prompt. I'm gonna put on Lord of the Rings only because, like, I have the audiobooks for this and I can get through them alongside others at the same time, and then hope that I get something for this. Either way, the aim will be to pick this up in November. Pick number 4. A nonfiction book. So I don't have any books that I need to read that are nonfiction, but I did get this one recently. It's called Cult Following. It is about cults, and it delves into like famous cults and cults you might not have heard of, and the reason that people get sucked into these kinds of things. And yeah, I was very interested in it. This might have been a little bit of a cover buy though. Pick number 5. And then a book with an animal on the cover. Do any of the books that I'm currently reading have an animal on the cover? Actually, I did find one. I actually found 2, but I think I'm going to go with this one. Yeah, I'm going to go with this one because I think the other one I could finish this month if it's a potential. Anyway, Story of Silence. This is about a non-binary knight who was born as a girl but raised to be a boy, and it's about them figuring out their identity in this topsy-turvy strange world. Okay, so this is the final TBR plus Eloise. I think it's the first month in a while that I haven't gotten an ebook. So I did manage to get 4 books that are on my currently reading on this TBR. One that is pretty short, so I should get through it relatively quickly. After that, I should be down to about 18 books, give or take, depending on what I end up finishing by the end of this month. Now, should I be picking out of these 2 jars? Probably not, but I might anyway. Land of Elion, whatever. These 2, I actually own the first 2 books of. I don't know if I ever posted the video telling you that I did put some book series in here that I have the first book of but have not started yet to actually help me get to those series. So this one is The Dark Hills Divide. I got the first and second book from our local little free library, and I think I have tried to start this in the past and just didn't get very far into it, but this seems like the perfect November middle grade-y vibes. Benson said they read it as a kid and they really enjoyed it. We'll give it a shot. Okay. And then a reread book. What are we gonna do? Okay. I am simultaneously excited and nervous about this one because it is The Book Thief. Like I just said, historical fiction in November is one of my favorite things to read, but I'm also very nervous about it because it's The Book Thief. It makes me sad. I think every time I've read this, I have absolutely bawled my eyes out. Should I reread that one though? Because I have read it 3 times in the past, and I feel like the point of this jar is to read books that I have not already read. So maybe I'm gonna pick again. I'm just gonna pick it again just to see if I can get something that I haven't already read multiple times, you know? I think this works. So if you've been following along actually, I don't know if that video is gonna be out yet. So I started a new series on this channel involving rereading some books. Hopefully the first video will be out sooner rather than later, if it's not already out yet. But it's called my Battle of the Book series, which I know is a very generic name, but I couldn't come up with anything else. And this book happens to be one of the options, and that is Imaginary Corpse, which follows a tiny triceratops who's a little detective. And then in terms of the self-destruct projects, they were wrapped. Now they are not wrapped. I still need to pick 2 books in order to stay on track, even if we consider all the books that I haven't read because I'm very behind on them. I am choosing The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is one that I have had unwrapped previously, hadn't gotten to it, but I'm going to get to it this month. And then one of the things that I had wrapped up is gonna go perfectly with the Lord of the Rings, because one of the books was The Hobbit. This is one that I had read long time ago. I think it was around the time Benson and I started dating, or even before that when we were friends. But I'd read this a long time ago. Don't remember very much of it. I've never seen any of the movies or really delved into the world very much. Still, I remember really loving this, and I wanted to read it again and fully bask in the world. So all of this plus Eloise is the and the Imaginary Corpse are all on the TBR. Let me know what you're reading in November. Let me know if there are any of these books that you are excited to hear my thoughts on. And let me know if there are any that you think I should just toss. Doesn't mean I'll listen, but just in case. Be sure to hit that like button if you like this video, and subscribe if you want to see more from me, as well as Benson, who's a frequent member on this channel. I'll leave all of their links down in the description box below, as well as links to my social media if you want to get any more updates from me. But until then, goodbye.